Hello, guys. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Blossom Women. My name is Anita, and welcome back to my channel. So, today I am going to be discussing and sharing my own personal experience on when I was first diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency, premature ovarian failure. So, I'm going to be sharing everything from the beginning to the end. And I've made some notes because I had to go back and try and remember some things, go back into my diary, and just try and get some things done for you guys that I can share today. And so let's get started. So stay tuned and let's get started then. So I had my first and last menstrual period at the age of 15 years old. So you could say I was a late bloomer because the average age for a girl to have a period is 12, and you can have a period between the age of 8 to 15 years old. So you can say, yeah, 15 years old, that's when I had my first period. And I remember when I had my first period, the duration of the period was 4 days, exactly 4 days, and the bleeding was quite light as well too. It wasn't a heavy bleeding, and I don't remember having cramps or any pains or whatsoever at that age. I just remember I was bleeding unexpectedly, and I was wondering what it was all about because I never really knew about period or anything like that before that age. So I remember then the family member that I was staying with during that time that were taking care of me at that age. I expressed that, look, this is happening to me. I don't know what to do. Of course, they had to educate me and tell me, okay, this is a normal thing for a woman to go through, and these are the things that you can do in terms of taking care of yourself and how regular your period should be, and how to keep track of your period as well too. So like I said, that was my last period at that age. I didn't have any other period until I started on the HRT. So I didn't have a period at the age of 16. I didn't have a period at the age of 17. I did not have a period at the age of 18. I did not have a period at the age of 19 until I started on the HRT. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. I didn't have any period at all. And I remember then when, because I had my first period at, I think it was the second quarter of the second quarter of the year, and that was 2004. When I was 15 was the second quarter of that year, and I never had any period throughout that year at all. And I remember throughout the rest of the year, I actually spoke to the family member. Then I was like, look, okay, you had told me that period was supposed to be regular on a monthly basis. I haven't had my period since the last one, and I remember precisely what was said to me. I remember everything. It was said to me that it's normal. It's normal that you have a late period because some people do start their period at the age of 25. Yes, you heard me, at the age of 25. And I was young at that time. I was 15. So who was I to question a much older person that was married to a doctor, obviously more knowledgeable in that area than I was. So I was like, okay, fine. This is someone who's much older than me telling me this happens, and people get it at a later age, 25. So it's not a big deal. It's common. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I went about my life for the next 4 years. I went about my life, going to school, coming back home, doing things that teenagers are supposed to do at that age, 15. So like I said, I never had any period from there on until I started on the HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So after that then, and the age of 17, 18, 19, I remember I was very flat chested. Like I had no breast at all, nothing. And like you say, some people can be late in developing all these features that women are supposed to have. So I didn't pay no mind to that. And so I went about my life, going to school, coming home, doing regular things you're supposed to do. Though I didn't have any regular teenage life, but that's another topic for another time. So I remember during the time I was at the process of doing my leaving set, which is your final year in secondary school, and I was in the library during this time frame, and I was trying to study for for my leaving cert, and that's where I met my very close friend right now. Her her child is my godson. So, and I don't know how the topic was packed in the beginning, but I found that we started talking about periods. And I then told her, "Oh, I don't get any periods." She was like, "What?" I was like, "I don't get period." And this time I was 18 going on 19 at this age. I was like, "I don't get any period." She was like, "You don't get any period? Are you serious? When's the last time you had a period?" So I told her the last time I had my period, and she was like, "That it's not had my period." And she was like, "That's not right. That doesn't sound right to have your period, and you haven't had your period up till then. Have you gone to check yourself?" I told her, well, I was told at home that it's okay. It's normal not to have your period, that people have their period at a later age. And she was like, "No, that's not right." Of course, she then went ahead and seek further information from her cousin, and from her cousin just to ask, "I have a friend who's not having their period. Is this normal? Is this right? Is this correct? Correct?" And so on. And I remember the first time I went to visit her cousin in the house, which I call my aunt. I went to visit her, and she called me. I was like, "Look, this was said to me that you're not having a period, and that's incorrect. You need to get yourself checked. You need to go seek medical advice on that, because you're supposed to be getting your period every single month. As a 19 years old girl, especially the first time that you had your period, 15, you've not had anything since then. That's not right. You need to seek medical advice." I was reluctant at first to actually go and seek any medical advice, because I've been told that it's normal, and this is someone who's married to a doctor. So it's like, okay, why are those people telling me something else when someone that I grew up with, that has my best interest at heart? Why would I be then thinking of seeking medical advice? I was very reluctant at first, but I decided to go seek medical advice. So I then booked an appointment with the GP. So let's talk about the GP part of things now. So I booked an appointment with my GP, and it took a couple of days for me to get an appointment. So I went to see the first stage. I went to see my GP. So when I went in to see the GP, I had explained everything to him, that, look, this is what's going on. The last time I had my period was a date at the age of 15. Since then, I have not had any period or whatsoever. Of course, the GP has to do their own examination in terms of they ask you questions, your history question, family questions, and then they did a blood test as well too, just to check some hormone levels and things like that in your body. And then they also do a pregnancy test as well too, just to make sure that you're not pregnant, or you're not pregnant at all. So they do a few of those tests. So they do a test in terms of, they ask a question about your family history, your menstrual cycle, when was the last time you had a period, and how heavy was the flow, what was the duration of the period, and they ask you about family history as well. If there's anyone in the family that's having the same issue, not having period, and so on. At this stage, I didn't really understand why these questions were being asked of me. So he asked me this question, did a blood test, and did everything. And once that was done, then I had to then wait for the results. Then, so I went home that day. I went back home 2 weeks for the blood test to arrive, and then the GP called me back in and told me that they're going to refer me to a gynecology. So I was referred to a gynecology after the GP visit. So I had to wait for an appointment from them. So I eventually got an appointment after a couple of weeks to months. After a couple of weeks to a month, I got an appointment with a gynecology, and I went in. I was not really expecting any physical examination to be done that very day, because I don't really know what I was expecting, because I still don't know what was going on. I was only simply trying to get answers at this stage. So I went into an gynecology, and when I got there, I of course they had to do physical exams. So I was asked a couple of questions by the gynecology in terms of my menstrual cycle, family history, if there was anybody in my family that wasn't having regular periods or anything like that. And I was also asked, I had to do a blood test to check my hormone levels as well too. And then they also had to they also do a pelvic exam as well too. So those were the four things that those were the four things that was done by the gynecology. So after that was done, I remember doing the pelvic exam. I was lying down in this chair, where one of those hospital chair that they have in there for their examination. So I had to lie down, and my leg was wide open. Like I said, I was not expecting anything to happen, but it did. My legs were wide open. And then what they do then is, it's like, how can I explain it? It's like a smear when you're doing a smear test, when they inject, and it's just a bit uncomfortable. It just, when it goes in for the first time, it's really uncomfortable. So it was like that for me anyway. It was like that. So they insect something, and it told, as they were going along, they were explaining to me that they had to check my pelvics and everything like that. They took a camera in just to kind of see what's going on. So I'm guessing for everyone it's different, but this was for my own experience. So all that was done, and then I did my blood test, and then I answered the questions as much as I could. And the questions were like, so is anybody in the family that doesn't have periods? Is anybody in the family that doesn't have any children? Is anybody in the family that's going through the same thing? And I was like, not that I know of. My mother had three children, and I don't really know much about my father's side of things. So I don't really know what's going on there. So you answer the question as best as you can, and they take all the details down. So all that was done by the gynecology, and then of course once that was done, I had to wait for the result. So I went home. That day I tried not to overthink things, because I was like, you know what, I don't want to think about the worst right now, because I don't really know what's going on. We're simply trying to establish that. So there's no need allowing my mind to overthink anything. So yeah, so I went home that day. Although it was hard, it's hard enough to try and think, what's going on? Why is this being done? What exactly is going on? What am I missing? I know they were explained to me, but still, I still was not understanding. So of course I had to wait for the results, which took a couple of weeks. For the result, a week to a month, we took a couple of weeks to a month to be reviewed. And I went in for blood tests and things like that. So let's talk about the results. You have what's called premature ovarian failure. So I eventually got a call back to say I should come in for my results. So I got ready. I went back to the hospital to see the gynecology and get my feedback and results on what exactly is going on with me. When it was my turn to be seen, I went in, and as soon as I got in there, there were like 3 to 4 people just sitting down there, and instantly my mind went, this is not going to be a good news. This is not going to be good. And so they broke the news to me, and it really was not what I was expecting. And at this stage, they started explaining to me what POF is, started giving me just the brief, trying to make it as brief as simplistic they could for me. And I was at that stage, I was just in a state of shock, trying to understand what is going on. I didn't know what POF meant. And the only thing that actually kept ringing in my head was the fact that you might not be able to have children, or you cannot have children at all. I I was like, my mind was just going around. I cannot have children. I cannot have